David and I get the dubious honor of going last after 5 o'clock, so thank you all for being here. I believe one of the other options you had was seeing Maria Ressa speak, which if I weren't here, I would be fangirling her, so seriously, thank you all for being here. My name is Versha Sharma. I am a current board member. I'm just ending my first term, so I've served for the last 2 years. And just to tell you a little bit about myself first before we get to the question, over the last 2 years on the board, last year I worked primarily on the programming and conference committee, so if you enjoyed ONA 18 in Austin, I was part of that. This year I've worked more on the News and Legal Ethics Committee, which has been extremely interesting with Eric Carvin, who's also here and chair of that committee. One of the lesser known things that ONA does is actually join a number of legal briefs in support of press freedom, which I think is absolutely amazing, and you can find all of this information on our website, on our blog. So we've joined a number of these cases this year, and we have for the last couple years, and we've also had some significant victories as well. At Now This, I am the managing editor and senior correspondent there. I've been there for the last 5 years. I've seen our newsroom grow from 12 people to over 140. It's been absolutely incredible to see the growth and innovation that we've had there, and I think that's one of the things that makes me sort of uniquely suited to serve on the board, is being at the forefront of digital innovation. I also speak at conferences and trainings around the world. I've gone to Russia and Kazakhstan for these, and I think as Fergus and Andrew and a couple other people have mentioned, making ONA even more international than it already is definitely one of my priorities and continues to be. And I am a graduate of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. I was part of the cohort in 2017. I see some cohort women here. Thank you for coming. Being at that accelerator and hearing from great mentors like Charo and like Kim Bui is the reason that I decided to run for the board. It was something that I was considering because ONA has done so much for me over my career, and I wanted to find a way to give back. And when I told Kim that I was thinking about running for the board, she was like, yes, oh my God, do it. And that is the kind of amazing support that you see in ONA and in WLA specifically. It's this empowering, confidence-building, positive reinforcement, and I think for that reason and so much more, WLA is one of the best programs that ONA does, and I think, I'm just very proud to represent that, and I want that to continue to be something that we focus on in the coming years. Okay, what is the most pressing issue facing digital journalists in the next couple years? I'm going to preface this answer by saying I do feel very passionately about the issue of misinformation, both in terms of actors who are actually creating fake news and in terms of people in the highest levels of our government misleading the public about where hurricanes are going to impact the United States. And I'm happy to talk about that anytime, so please come find me. But having said that, I believe that the biggest threat facing us are broken financing models and the failure of management at many companies to lead and understand this. I also thought we had to pick one, so that's what I did. More than 3,200 journalists have already been laid off this year. This is the worst year for layoffs in journalism in the last 10 years. We're in New Orleans, where, as Andrew noted, the Times-Picayune newsroom was laid off 161 people earlier this year. And just last Friday, actually, my husband, who's also a journalist, was laid off from Think Progress because the Center for American Progress decided to stop funding an independent news outlet. So this is more job losses than coal miners have faced, and yet that's not a discussion that we see. I think part of the problem is journalists in general don't like talking about ourselves, and that's seen as it's seen as narcissism in the industry, but honestly, as a public health issue, as Andy Carvin mentioned this morning, it's critically important that we find sustainable business models for journalism, independent journalism, and that we help each other do that, and I think ONA is absolutely the place where we can do that. I've seen a tendency from some journalists to kind of put on blinders when it comes to understanding revenue and business models. I'm a reporter by trade. I'm not a business person. I'm not a salesperson. So journalists will put on blinders and be like, okay, it's not my problem. It's not something that I need to be concerned about. I wish we lived in a world where that was the case. But in many cases, we understand both the public utility of journalism and the dire straits that it's in better than the presidents, than the CEOs, and the business and sales staff at our companies. So there are a couple structural problems facing the industry. We've gone through a couple of them already. I want to point out that I know I work for a company that's been at the forefront of social distribution, relying on platforms like Facebook and Google, but I think understanding that and knowing that Facebook and Google have taken 60% of ad revenue in recent years is one of the reasons that we need to really discuss how we can hold these platforms more accountable. Okay, am I up?
One more sentence.
One more sentence. I don't know. I'm just going to go for the question.
That's fine, because I have a very important question. And actually, I'm trying to be fair to everybody, but in terms of movie questions, I don't have to be. This one's kind of hard. How do you shoot the devil in the back? What if you miss? He's gone. Oh, I heard somebody.
Usual suspect.
Usual suspect. How did she know? How did she know?
My guess was just going to be John Wick, but thank you guys.
Usual suspects. All right. So you in the past have interviewed Obama, Sanders, all kinds of different people. I don't know if you all know this, but next year there's an election. And I'm wondering what you think the ONA community or people should do or think about as we prepare to head into no big deal, just a little election.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I could talk about this forever. So it's another one of the things that I think is one of the most pressing issues facing us as an industry. I worry that mainstream and legacy organizations are kind of failing to meet this moment. We are in a very unique moment in our lifetimes in terms of threats to press freedom, an increasingly authoritarian government, the president misleading people with fake news. We haven't seen this before in our lifetimes. We've seen versions of it. It's not entirely new. But we haven't seen this sort of unprecedented level of a consistent onslaught against the truth in our lifetimes. I think the Washington Post tally is over 10,000 lies from President Trump for this administration. So what I really want to see news organizations do next year is, number one, have full accountability for where we think we went wrong in 2016, because in a lot of cases we did go wrong, and we can hold each other accountable for that. And then make sure that we are doing the job of reporting on the state of our democratic republic in an accurate way without concern for pissing off certain communities who are often full of bad faith actors anyway. Our job as journalists is to tell the truth. We deal in accuracy. And so if there is a truth such as Republicans are a minority rule party, then that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be saying. If there is a truth such as Republicans have lost 2 of the 5 last elections in the popular vote, but they've been able to win because of the structure of the Electoral College, and what can we talk about there in terms of how we can inform our readers, then that's what we should be saying. So a reminder that accuracy is our priority and not appearing falsely equivalent and neutral.